What's up, guys? Chris here with Cohesive Friendship Unit. The streaming wars are about to begin. We have Google Stadia coming out in just a month. We have Project xCloud launching in some capacity this very month, and Sony snuck in and updated the service we all forgot about, PlayStation Now, with a new $9.99 price tag and some added great titles like God of War, PlayStation 4. And we're going to ask the question, how is PlayStation Now in 2019? Is it ready to fight with the big boys? And more importantly, is it worth your dollar or $9 a month? But we are going to be going in depth with all of these services as they come out, and this is actually going to be the beginning of like a services playlist. So yeah, you can check that out. We are going to be doing a Game Pass PC video later this week, which will also be there, so something to look forward to. And yeah, maybe subscribe if you want to see that, or any of our other service videos, or any of our videos. But let's get into this. What is PlayStation Now in 2019? PlayStation Now is a streaming platform for both PlayStation exclusives and non-exclusives. This is not Game Pass, where you download games locally onto your platform, and that does have its pros and cons, and we are going to talk about that. But this is a streaming platform. The setup, super fast and super easy. I would say it was about 5 minutes to get up and playing, and that's really nice. This is one of the benefits to a streaming platform over something like Game Pass, where you have to download tens of 80 gigabyte games. That takes literal days and drags your bandwidth down, at least immediately. This 5 minutes, and you have a lot of titles, that you can just load up in seconds. And I mean a lot. The library is actually really solid, and what Sony added was a huge boost to that library. But some highlights that I do want to cover are The Last of Us, Uncharted 4, Bloodborne, God of War PS4, and something like Gravity Rush 2, Infamous Second Son. There's a lot of great exclusives, but there's also a lot of great non-exclusives, just great games that you can play. And this one's a shout out to the PC players out there. Red Dead Redemption PC is actually on this platform, not PC, but Red Dead Redemption's on this platform, which you can play on PC. So if you're trying to squeeze in Red Dead Redemption 2 before Red Dead Redemption 2 drops on PC next month, then this is probably the only way you're going to be playing it on PC. So yeah, Red Dead Redemption, Grand Theft Auto 5, lots of great games. Lots of great games. The library actually really impressed me the more I dug into it. There's a lot of kind of crap on there, but there are some gems if you dig, but there are a lot of games. Fallout 4, last one I'll mention. So, will this take any controller? In my experience, yeah, at least all the major ones. Sony recommends a DualShock 4 that's hooked into USB, and that's because of the touchpad functionality. But if you don't actually need the touchiness of the touchpad, you should be fine with any controller. Sony actually also says the DualShock 3 is perfectly acceptable, and there's no crazy like drivers or anything that need to be installed in the controller. So I think anything that plugs into your PC and works on your PC should work here. But there are some drawbacks to PlayStation Now. Starting with the resolution, you get up to 720p resolution, not 720p resolution, up to. That is the maximum. And how does that stack up? Well, that means you're looking at parity with some base PS4 games graphically, or less parity than base PS4 games. So you're not even getting up to base PS4 quality in a lot of cases, and this is 100% not a PlayStation 4 Pro experience, where something like xCloud is at least trying to promise minimum base Xbox parity. This is slightly under. Of course, the performance is going to be on par, but the resolution will not. Artifacting personally on Ethernet with a by no means spectacular but city internet, I you see artifacting when things spin up, but for the most part, it is not that big of an issue for me on a 27-inch monitor. And again, the 720p is a bummer in 2019, a month away from these other big players, because Stadia has a free version. I mean, you have to pay for the games, but the free version is going to be streaming up to 1080p, with the paid version going all the way up to 4K. So it is a little unfortunate that we're not getting at least 1080p, which again, xCloud is also supporting, but it is what it is. The next biggest drawback is that PSNow only has PlayStation support, like on the PS4, and Windows support. There is no Mac OS support. There is no app you can download. There are workarounds to, stream your desktop to your phone or something, but that adds latency, which is bad. We're already on the edge of latency here. We don't need to be introducing more latency. So it is a little unfortunate that Mac users who maybe would want a gaming experience, like they don't have a console and they have a Mac, so they're not doing a lot of PC gaming, this isn't going to be the solution for you, because you do need Windows. But let's talk about the big elephant in the room for streaming services, that being latency. And I did do a test, and I will go over the parameters of that test with you guys. But first, I want to give my impressions pre-test. Like before I did what I did and figured out the latency on my personal end, I wanted to just talk to you about what I experienced. And again, on Ethernet, personal experience, city internet. Anecdotally, the latency is a non-issue. The latency is a non-issue for me, especially with a monitor, which already reduces latency quite a bit over TV. So your TV, like if you're playing in the living room on your couch, those TVs already have a fair amount of latency, especially if you do not switch to game mode. They already have a significant amount of latency. I'm playing with a 5 millisecond IPS display. That is really good compared to most TVs. That most TVs don't quite reach that. So I'm already reducing latency when I'm doing this. And I imagine if you're streaming this off your laptop or your desktop PC that's not hooked up to the living room, you will have a higher refresh rate panel. So again, personally, was not a game breaker. You will occasionally notice it. I'm not saying there is no latency, but it was not enough to bother me. Basically, it felt like playing a game on my TV, except on my monitor, if that makes sense. So like I noticed there was added latency, but it was not game-breaking amount. And I did notice it to a point where I wouldn't play competitively on it. Like Rocket League's on it. I have Rocket League locally. I would always opt to probably play it locally over streaming it. But I had no issues playing story-driven content like Last of Us, like Uncharted, like God of War. Now let's go into the test that I did. My test was I basically held my phone, run a Google Pixel 3a in slow motion, 240 frames per second. I held my controller in front of the monitor. You're going to be seeing this here. I'm just going to be putting the results on screen, so you don't have to like watch me go frame by frame. I would do the God of War, the intro to God of War, where you have to swing your axe onto the tree. You can just flick R1. I would flick R1, and R1 has a decent audio sensation, like it makes a noise, and that was my trigger. So right when I heard a noise coming out on the video, I would start going frame by frame until I noticed Kratos started his swinging animation. So I could see the amount of frames in my 240 frame per second slow motion video, the number of frame difference from the PS4 to the PC, where Kratos went from me pressing the button to him starting his animation. And I know this is not perfect, but this is what I did. And I used the same source, the same monitor, the same cables. Only difference was you have to be plugged in unless you have the PlayStation wireless thing for PC, which is fine. I figure most people playing their PS4 are playing it in wireless mode anyway, so I put it in wireless mode. That is really the major difference. Regardless, what are the results? I found about 63 milliseconds of added lag. And I know that sounds really high when you look at tech specs, specifications, when you read, oh, this monitor is 1 second versus 5 second, and only the pros use the pros need that 1 second of added, this sounds like a bigger deal than it is in my experience. If you look at a lot of the major TVs, that's a pretty decent response time. So like if you're playing video games on a TV without putting things in game mode, you can get up to 100 plus frames of latency. So it's, yeah, like I'm not going to say that this is the perfect solution. That being said, it wasn't a game breaking solution. Again, 63 milliseconds of added lag. There were 50 frames when from when I hit the button on the PS4 to when Kratos started to swing the axe, and there were 65 frames between when I hit the button on the PC, PlayStation Now, and when Kratos began to swing his axe. So I think at this point we've covered everything about PlayStation Now. What are my conclusions? Should you buy this if you own a PS4? And should you buy this if you don't own a PS4? If you own a PS4, you probably should not buy this because the quality does not quite even reach a base PS4 in most cases. And it's the lag is one thing, but if you look at the library and you own a PS4, a lot of these titles are not currently $60 titles. So you might be better off just picking up the ones that you want, and you'd probably be under the cost of a year of PSNow. That being said, if you do just want a one and done solution where you buy a PS4 and you pay for this service, it will not be a disaster. I can tell you that. It will be a serviceable solution. If you have a PC, especially if you have a monitor with a decent refresh rate, yeah, this is a great way to squeeze in some PlayStation or even console exclusives. This is a great way to play, like I said, Red Dead Redemption. I would totally play it on here. Yeah, it's not ideal. It's 720p. I'm sure you guys wish you could play it at 4K, all kinds of with mods and all that, but this is the next best thing. You don't have to go out and buy a PlayStation 3 and pop in Red Dead Redemption. You can use this service and it'll take care of you. Also, it is one of the best again, you're not going out and buying a console, but it allows you to play true PlayStation exclusives at what I would say acceptable, especially because those are story-driven experiences. Like you could 100% play God of War to completion on this, 100% play through The Last of Us or any Bloodborne, any of these really great games and experiences. And yeah, that's it for this video, guys. Let me know if you've ever tried PSNow. There is a 7-day free trial, so you guys could easily check it out, and you could easily finish a PlayStation exclusive that you haven't checked out yet. And yeah, let me know what your experience with it is, and that is all for me. I will catch you guys next time.